From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, welcome back. Dr. Jason here, Dental Lighthouse Podcast. Super excited for my episode today. Mainly excited because I get to talk to somebody. You're probably excited too because you don't have to listen, or you don't have to listen to my ramblings, my musings. Today is going to be an action-packed episode. Really excited for my guest today, Dr. Petr Vaughn, a pediatric dentist, entrepreneur, CEO, man of many talents. Petr, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity. Anytime I get a chance to hop on the phone with you and chat, I know I'm going to learn something today.
Your flattery will get you everywhere. Petr is in a super unique situation, as a lot of my listeners are, as a lot of my coaching clients are. He's scaling, right? So he's trying to figure out the best way to go from, 1 to 2 to 3 locations and beyond. And I thought it would be great to get Petr on the podcast for a couple of reasons. We have a little bit of a history together, a working relationship. And I haven't talked to him in depth in almost 6 months, maybe even longer than that. But I would just love for him to unpack, what's gone really well. And as he scaled, what's been a struggle, and just little things that you guys can learn from, maybe obstacles that you can avoid after hearing about someone else's lived experience with dealing with them. So that's my hope for today. Petr, is that something you're cool with?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So let's just give the listeners a little bit of background, who you are, where you're from, how you got to this particular point, if it's not too much trouble.
Not at all. So, as you mentioned, I'm a pediatric dentist in Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up here. I am married to a general dentist. For context, she grew up here as well. We actually met in dental school. First day, one of those icebreaker events at orientation that they make you do. Met her at the first day. Been pursuing her ever since. So we got married at the end of dental school. Moved back to Cincinnati because that's where I got into residency at. And it was great. We were back home. I went into knowing that my whole experience, I've always wanted to be a practice owner. So I came back, knew that we were going to be here, and started working on my first startup while I was in residency. At the same time, my wife bought a general dentistry practice. And if that wasn't crazy enough, at the end of residency, as we were managing all of this, she got pregnant with twin boys. So pretty complex. This was all 2020 to 2022. And God, I guess, figured we did a good enough job with the first set of twins. He actually blessed us. We're 8 months into our second set of twins. So it is that's the personal side. It's been busy. But really, really exciting.
It's funny. I think I've shared this with you, but for the listeners who maybe I haven't shared it with, our last two were twins. They're now 15 years old, boys. But there's no doubt in my mind that if our first two were twins, we would have stopped it too, because the chaos I cannot imagine the chaos we had with one. It was just the sense of overwhelm. For the first two to be twins, like at the same time, I don't know how you and your wife kind of talked each other into having more. So God bless you. And to your point, God only gives you what he knows you can handle. But I can't imagine more than two if my first two were twins.
We're all about efficiency. We wanted 4 kids, and not that we chose, but that was the fastest way to get there. So
yeah. So you got this startup during the residency, or you're getting it rolling, and it's wildly successful. And then what was going through your mind in terms of, what do I want to do next?
So, as I mentioned, I knew I wanted to be a practice owner, and that's why I got started right away in residency, and that was sort of my one track mindset. Um, the story kind of starts back in residency still. So, our hospital brought in guest lecturers, and one of those, second year of residency, was a guy by the name of Paul Rudolph. He came in and via Zoom, because it was COVID, and presented this awesome story about how him and his wife, who's a pediatric dentist. So Paul is a serial entrepreneur with a passion for public health. His wife, Lisa, is a pediatric dentist. How they, in the city of Cincinnati, started these school-based dental centers where the kids don't have to go to the dentist. The dentist actually comes to them in their school. So it helps solve the access problem. Really passionate about it, talking to us about how, as a private practitioner, we can help solve those problems in our community, and don't just have to rely on the public health system. So really resonated with me. It was a moment where I was thinking, I started thinking outside of myself and like the impact that we can make in the profession that we have. So that was sort of the turning point. I immediately connected with them. I also needed my first job as I was getting my startup going. So I worked for Lisa as my first associate job, worked on my startup. And really when we came together after that moment was about 2023. So at this point, 2023, I had my own startup. I was still working for Lisa. We had two separate practices. Well, going back to the school-based dental clinics, they were able to screen the kids in those, but there's a certain percentage of the population that needs operating room care, and they didn't have access to the operating room. So Lisa and I got together and thought, let's create a direct to OR business where they can just refer to us. We've got the provider capacity. We've got the OR time. We can go take care of these kids. And so that was sort of our first joint venture together, but also the moment where we decided, if we are really going to solve this problem in Cincinnati, if we're really going to focus on how can we get as many kids access to dental care, take care of as many people in our city as possible, we're best to do it together. So we decided let's start merging our financials together. So two separate locations, 2023. I'm the CEO, Lisa's the CDO, Paul, her husband, is see everything else. And since then, we've bought two retiring docs out. So two more locations, pediatric offices. In November, we started location number 5, and we are starting location number 6 in April. So all of this has happened really quickly, and that's where all the challenge. I mean, that's that's where all the challenges have come. We went from 2 doctors to 7. 7,000 active patients to 20,000, 20 employees to 60, all in the span of a little over 2 years.
That's crazy.
So that's the story.
Yeah, that is so. I just love it. So there's so many things I want to ask you. But I'll get a little theoretical first. You have referenced a couple times already, and I know based on our previous conversations, you've also talked about this, that it sounds like from day one, or really from your residency, you had clarity on what your vision was or what level of influence you wanted to have on your community. And you may feel that that's normal at that young age, but I have found it to be very abnormal. I have found it that most of the clients that I'm working with early on in my relationship, it's about survival mode. They're not thinking about, what God put them on this earth to do. So can you speak a little bit to that? Like, at what point was that level of influence or impact that you could have on others? What point was it solidified in you? Did it come to you like in a dream, or is it something like even from like high school that you were like, this is what I want to do?
It's a great question. It was instilled in me from a young age from my grandfathers and my father who have their own businesses and have been impactful in the community. So men in this example that I've looked up to and I admire have had set the stage with this is what we do with our talents and our resources and our position is we take care of other people and we create something that is looked up to in the community. So I had that as like the vein running through me. The moment that it really, or the moments that it really clicked, I think started with content that I was consuming even through dental school. And it just finally clicked in that moment in residency. But folks like, I mean, just shout out like DSI and Mark Costas, just this mindset of abundance. And you portray that as well, like in all of our coaching. But that was the first start of, it's bigger than yourself. And it's not just, that's the bottom line, that there is something bigger than yourself. And that's what we should be thinking about.
That's awesome. And for you to come to that conclusion at such an early age, it is just a testament to the people you had in your life, growing up. I mean, I deal with 40 and 50-year-olds that still have really no idea what they're doing. And to be quite honest with you, depending on how I sleep the night before, maybe that I'm even in that bucket, but that was great to hear. So, so appreciate you answering the question the way you did. I'd love to hear next, and I'm sure my listeners would love to hear, what have been the obvious challenges that you faced going from 15 employees to 60, going from 4,000 or 5,000 active patients to 20, going from 2 doctors to 7? Like, what mistakes did you make? What do you wish you could go back and kind of redo, so to speak, get a do-over, get a mulligan? Any thoughts that are relevant in your mind regarding that?
There are too many to talk about on this podcast, but there are certain ones that take up the most bandwidth for me or continue to come up. The one that's most present is scaling with the size and the growth and the number of people. The challenge or the obstacle has been scaling the culture and the leadership with it. And so, it was easy for me to coach my startup team. I could coach the assistant, I can coach the front desk. I've got extra time. I'm always there every day. I can run the meetings, and I can also explain why I want things. Why I can explain the why behind the how and the what, and I tried to do that like up until this year, and I probably still try to do that for all of the practices. And that's where we really reached a bottleneck. So I was still able to run meetings and do one-on-ones, but just barely. And that's all I spent my time doing. But we didn't have anybody in the office every other day that I was there to hold anybody accountable, to lead the office at all. It was like, I led on the day of the week that I was there, but I might not be back for 2 weeks. And then there's a whole list of problems that we got to solve. And so, that has been the biggest challenge that we are still working to solve.
How are you? So that's a very, very legitimate problem, and one that I've personally faced. It's I don't want to call it easy, but it's way easier to lead when everyone's in the building, right? But as soon as you start to get into situations where you have multiple locations and you can't be there every day, who replaces your voice, your wisdom, your level of accountability when you're not there? So I totally get that it's an active, fluid situation that you're working on. But knowing you like I do, you have a strategy in place. Now, who knows if it's the right strategy, but what are you actively doing on a moment-to-moment basis to try to prevent yourself from being the bottleneck as you grow?
This has been our project for the last 6 months, and it has been really rewarding. So what we started to do was we actually took a lot of your servant leadership course and use that as our basis for training up specific leaders in the office, which we had not done before, partly probably because I didn't want to give up control, and partly because I didn't know, I hadn't created a system and I didn't know how to do it. And so taking that course, I took it with you, but also, downloaded it and kind of used some of that as our core curriculum. And we've been meeting with a doctor from each of the offices. We've ran our whole team, our support team through it, and we met weekly. So that's what we did over this, like I said, this last quarter. Listen to videos. We came with examples, gave them homework, and we just got on every week, every other week, and talked through examples of how this is how we can handle this conversation. This is why we've structured the meetings this way. This is how you respond to a person whenever you need to hold them accountable. Like just active coaching throughout. I wish I would have done that earlier.
Yeah. I love that. And I appreciate the shout out, but there's tons of information out there. And as you've heard me say before, information is not power, but implementation of said knowledge is power. So you have to not only just acquire that information, but you have to actually implement it in a way that your team is going to resonate with. So I'm so proud of you for doing that. When you say leaders, do you have an avatar in each location that you're insisting on for leadership? So in our organization, it's the office manager, because my doctors are amazing, but most of them have been fairly clear that they don't want to sit in that leadership seat. So have you kind of drawn a line in the sand and said the leader of this office is it has to be a clinician, it has to be an office manager? Like, have you navigated that situation?
We have, and we've gone back and forth on it between ourselves. We have a support team in that growth of employees. We've got a support team that helps support mostly the front side of the business. We do not have office managers currently, mostly because a lot of the task stuff is done by our support team. And our teams are fairly small, and we have one doctor per day. So there's not multiple doctors working. It's a smaller model for office. So we have targeted, our plan is to really train. We know we have to train up somebody. And so we are not necessarily so dead set that it has to be an office manager or that it has to be a doctor. I would love for them to all be doctors. And right now we have some amazing doctors with us. There are a couple that really want to do that. And so that's just sounds like the luck of the draw, but we have some great doctors that, again, were in that leadership course with us and really excited about practicing some of practicing the skill set and leading the team. So that's the direction we're going right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious, based on what you said, because the smaller office dynamic, the one doctor at a time dynamic, we tried that as an associate-driven organization for a couple of years. And some months were wildly successful, and some months were a train wreck, mainly due to that single doctor either taking vacation or being sick, and not having backup providers. So I guess two parts to this question. Are you convinced that in your organization, the single doctor model is ultimately what you're going to scale? And when that single doctor does take a week off or is sick for a couple of days, are you the contingency plan?
Right now, kind of. But to bring some clarity to that, so it's one doctor per day, but we have multiple doctors working in multiple different offices. And so there's always at least two doctors that are splitting the week. So maybe Monday and
Okay.
Tuesday, doctor, it's another doctor. And yes, I am sort of the backup plan for maternity leaves and, vacations and everything in between. So yes, this is our model. The flagship is, just for an example, it's 6 chairs, really seven, because we have kind of a float chair, and we're able to see 65 to 75 patients a day, 5 days a week, and it does 3.4 million. Is sort of our, like, that's what we're shooting for. That's our
Yeah,
flag. And so we know we can get there, and we've grown these practices to that point. That's the model that is working for us right now. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, Again, kind of learning from your mistakes or learning from the obstacles that you've faced. We've talked about this before. There's lots of hats that are needed in a dental organization. There's HR, there's IT, there's marketing, there's all of these different things. Do you wish you would have brought in certain people earlier than you have, or are you still looking for these types of people that can take like that particular hat and just run with it, so you're not forced to kind of micromanage a department that it's not like your zone of genius. I mean, is that making sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I've been, I'm blessed with having a non-dental practitioner partner who loves to tackle some of these things. So that is sort of the seat that he sits in. That's managing more of the operational side and the finance side. And that's what we've tried to hire our support team to help support him. And that's going back to the scaling of leadership. That's where I found that I am spread thin. I'm trying to, I was trying and am trying to still lead everybody, which is my job, but that it's like the day to day explaining the why to the team every single day, and really just like driving that culture every day. And maybe I just have a dream of like, replicating this beautiful practice over and over again. And that's the problem we've been trying to solve. Like, how do you train up people to like live this out and help be an extension of me? Um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so it kind of does. So no, I mean, I'll let you in on a little secret. No one's going to be able to portray and communicate the culture like you, right? Sorry, didn't mean to let the air out of your balloon. But I think you just have to kind of come to the realization that as if we can find people that we can communicate through that don't necessarily do it at your level, but close, right? Like that's really what you're looking for. I mean, it would be nice if someone could do it at your level, but I have yet to, and I have a lot of really great leaders that I think are drinking the Kool-Aid. I know that are drinking the Kool-Aid, and they're super passionate about what we're doing. They're aligned with our vision. They're aligned with our purpose. Um, but they're not me, and they're not you, right? So it's having those people on our team is amazing. Coaching them up to be as close to how we would communicate something is amazing. But the reality is we're never going to have a bunch of Peters running around the organization or a bunch of Jasons running around. And I think that's a good thing, to be quite honest with you. Um, but what I was asking more so is, obviously the fact that you have a non-clinician partner, and I remember you kind of sharing with me how valuable he is from an entrepreneur perspective, operations, finance. But as someone that has 60 people, HR is a huge part of what you guys are doing. IT is going to become a huge part of what you're doing. Are those responsibilities still spread over many people? And is that a bottleneck, or do you feel like it's okay? Like the way that you're structured, you can grow another 25, 30 people and still not have to worry about having one person in charge of HR or one person in charge of AR, or one person in charge of IT, stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's the support team that we built from, or we tried to build as early as possible, because that was another one of the obstacles that we had to conquer was the communication problem. So I would go do these meetings and I'd say, okay, here's like 10 things that they need me to do. I'd say, okay, I can do them all. And then I wouldn't, or I would change something and the team wouldn't hear about it, or I would just forget, because,
Yeah.
and so we needed somebody to help make sure that the things that I said were going to get done actually got done. And so we have an HR lead who is helping manage all the benefits and all the team schedule and the PTO and everything. We've got a marketing coordinator. We've got an operations lead now. We have, what else do we have? Oh, and revenue cycle management leader. So
Yeah.
we sort of have people under the COO that's helping manage some of those things. If I could have built them faster, I would, but it's a cost constraint too at the beginning.
Yes.
And
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I see that. And I've seen that personally is like, you don't want to overbuild the support and not have the revenue there to support that support you have. But at the same time, you don't want to have not enough support and you guys are kind of running around with like your heads cut off. Right. So it's that dichotomy of, when to bring on key support people. I totally get it. What would you say is, outside of your, I don't want to call it struggle, but your challenge of communicating the why, replicating culture, um, obviously because you're the bottleneck, you're self-proclaimed bottleneck. Um, what are give me one or two more big struggles that you guys are up against? Is it staffing? Is it state-run insurances? Is it um, construction costs? What are some of the things that you're just like, man, if I had a magic wand, I wish I could solve for this?
Um, so I've got a couple more, and you tell me which one you want to tackle. So, as far as operational issues, one is we've got this patient population that needs to go to the OR. This is a minor one, but I wish I could wave a magic wand here. And we don't have enough OR time, and we've got now adult pediatric dentists. A lot of times are responsible for the adult special needs community or community with special needs. So. We've got so many patients that need to be seen, but we are getting boxed out a little bit. So that's like almost a problem that's a real challenge though. And with our growing patient population, we just continue to get more. Another one is the banking relationship. We want to grow so fast and we can see the next step. And we're really having to get creative on how do we continue to grow and push this thing forward and do the things that we want to do while we're living in this world of a lot of regulations and stipulations and so many tax returns and the financials written out in a certain way. And so we're having to get creative there. Say the final one that's really taken up a lot of my bandwidth right now is these leaders that we talked about. Okay, great. We've got some great doctors with us. How I am not building this to sell in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years to private equity, for example. Like I want to create a legacy business. So how do I make it? How do I keep these great people around sustainably without, with positive economic outcomes, but also, not diluting the control of when do I get to make these decisions on if I want to grow or not grow? How do I create something how do we plan for 30 years in the future when we're talking? So that's where we're at.
So to your point, like all three of those obstacles could be podcast episodes, right? Let me touch on each one just more so out of curiosity, certainly not in an attempt to solve for anything. I know our pediatric docs rely heavy on dental anesthesiologists and general anesthesiologists to come into the operatory or outpatient care, for lack of a better term. Is that something that's not a realistic option in Cincinnati?
We do. We have an anesthesiologist that comes into the office. I think some of the challenges with the more complex medical needs where they need to go to a hospital. But yes, that's a surgery center maybe, or, there are some solutions, there's some ideas that we're working through. But some of it is dependent on a bigger hospital system deciding if we can take our patients there. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a challenge,
Yeah.
but
As far as the banking relationships, I completely hear where you're coming from. Are the banks that you're currently working with, are they just being bureaucratic, or are they giving you specific guidelines that you need to meet in order to get more funding? Like when I was in your situation, it was I needed to have specific debt to EBITDA ratios. I needed to have specific debt service covenant ratios, and at least the handshake relationship was as long as those numbers are in line, they'll continue to raise the debt ceiling for me. Are you not running into that?
we do have we do have some clear cut metrics that we must meet in order to. Yes, we're clear on that picture. I think the frustrating thing is when you buy a practice every year, or you do a startup every year, instead of looking at the previous 12 months financials, it's like, well, we just got to wait till the tax return's done, for example, and it's just like it's just slow moving in a world
Yeah.
where you know. And there's a lot of sacrifice that we've had, because of that. Then you're sacrificing personal income potentially to, okay, well, let's just do this startup because we got the great doctor and we got the need. Let's go take care of it. Um, there are clear cut answers on how when we can get new lending. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Um, Kind of side question. As someone that's personally done de novos and acquisitions, I have a favorite. Have you found that you're more aligned with a de novo or an acquisition in terms of expanding the organization?
We are moving towards more of a de novo model. We did two acquisitions. They are challenging
Yeah,
to, there's a certain way that they've been doing things for however long, 20 years. Same team, for example, same patient base, same systems. And you come in and say, hey, this is the way we want to do things. It's challenging to make just to move the beast to the other way. The de novo is great. I can come in
yeah,
with my own people. We've already talked about the why. They know why we're doing this. We've got a doctor lined up who's on board. De novo is, and yeah, I mean, you're not getting the cash flow right up front, but the headache of the challenge of trying to just get everybody on board can be more or less avoided by doing a de novo.
we have found through our acquisitions that in the first year or so, we're going to lose probably half the team. Not because we're implementing things that are shady or go against any type of ethical code, but it's just human nature that people hate change, right? And when you start to ask them to do something differently because you have a proven track record of this is a better way to do it, they just resist. Have you lost a decent percentage of those team members from acquisitions?
We have, let me think, we have only lost one.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
However, I think that I have in this, in one of my challenges is a high tolerance for mediocrity for certain things. And I think that we probably kept some people when we shouldn't have. And,
Yeah, fair.
or at least it's taken a really long time to coach them. I think everybody's on the same page now, but, just that one of my leadership voids is wanting to make everybody happy. And so, as we're trying to marry everything together, that sometimes ends up keeping people around for longer.
I so resemble that comment. Only in the last few years have I just kind of drawn a line in the sand and to use your words, just really stop tolerating mediocrity. But it took me a long, long time to get there. Um, so, so This has been awesome, man. I could talk to you all afternoon, and I know your time is extremely valuable, so I don't want to do that. But I so appreciate your perspective on things and the journey over the last 5 years and how some of the, nuanced things that you said will definitely help some of our listeners. Maybe full time for them, they could avoid some of the pitfalls and some of the shortcomings and things like that. In closing, Peter, anything that you feel kind of best sums up, where you're at, the journey that you've been on, just anything that you feel like the listeners should just kind of keep relevant in the back of their mind, anything like that?
Yeah, I think, well, two things. One, I want to say thank you for all the time that you spent with me and really the abundance mindset, like I referenced at the beginning, sharing resources, sharing your time, answering questions, solving problems, and finding that place to be for yourself, but finding other people like that to talk, to connect, to communicate, to figure out where, if this is where you want to go, find someone who's done that and who wants to share and is willing to share and has the same values as you. And that has been huge. And so that's why I'm so grateful for my relationship with you, with DSI as another example, like and it could be anybody, but just finding that person. I would that would be the first step I would recommend to anybody along this journey.
Yeah, no doubt. So super well said. Collapse time with a mentor, with a coach, with, the whole Jim Rohn, you are the result of the 5 people that you hang around with. Like, you don't really realize that until you actually see it come to fruition. And it's so freaking true. It's so freaking true. So awesome, brother. Thank you so much for the time. I'm excited to get this episode out and have some people learn from it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Petr Vaughn.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.